All right, guys, it is November 12th, which is launch day for Mathews 2026 bows. I've got one of them here. This is the ARC 34. If you guys are familiar with Mathews and what they've been doing over the last several years, they typically put out a couple of bows under one model name with two different axle-to-axle lengths. So this is the 34-inch version, which I'm actually really excited about. I've been looking for a longer axle-to-axle hunting bow for a number of years. One of my very favorite bows of all time was the Halon X, which is a 35-inch axle-to-axle bow. As being a little bit taller guy, longer draw length, I like that longer axle-to-axle, so I was really excited this year to see a 34-inch axle-to-axle bow. So I'm gonna do an overview, kind of run through the 34-inch version. Also, I'll run you through the specs through the 30-inch version so you can know what to expect from that. I don't have one of those in-house, so I haven't had a chance to play with the 30-inch version, but I have spent a bunch of time with the 34-inch version. We'll grab an arrow. So I've got one of my arrows. It's a 490 grain arrow. We'll shoot that through a Chrono, give you a real world speed on what you might expect when the bow is fully set up, kitted out. We'll run through some of the new accessories. So Mathews over the last several years, probably some of their biggest advances have been in the accessories. So, you know, new bridge lock stabilizers, new integrated sights, that kind of thing. Obviously the integrated dovetail mount for your rest. This year they've got some new stabilizer options, so I'm gonna run through those. So first I'm gonna run you through the specs on the 30-inch version. So you're gonna have a 30-inch axle-to-axle. It's a little bit shorter. Guys in tree stands, guys hunting out of blinds, guys that just generally like a shorter axle-to-axle bow to maneuver through the woods. So that's gonna be that option, 30 inches. Brace height is gonna be 6 inches on that. IBO speed on that is gonna be 348. Going to be available in the different draw weights via the SwitchWeight X mods. So available in a 55 pound, 60 pound, 65, 70, 75, and 80 pound, which has always been kind of nice with the SwitchWeight X mods, is you can essentially just change your draw weight by changing out mods versus having to unscrew the individual limb bolts, which is pretty handy. It just keeps it more efficient. And then the physical weight of that bow. So that bow is going to be 3.99 pounds, so just under 4 pounds. I believe that is without your accessories like your dampeners, but a lightweight aluminum bow. Of course, I talked last year about the advances that those guys have made in cutting out their risers, the ability to cut it from 4 different directions. So they've really streamlined and slimmed down and cut down these aluminum risers so that they're able to drop weight, but also keep the rigidity in their bows. So that's the 30-inch version. The 34-inch version, touch on the specs, obviously 34 inches axle to axle. IBO speed rating up to 343 foot per second. We're gonna see what this one does through the Chrono in a real world setup situation with a typical hunting arrow for elk, maybe 490 grains. Physical weight, you're gonna be 4.3 pounds. Obviously you add a little bit of weight when you get the extra length. Available in the different draw weights. So you're gonna be 55, 60, 65, 70, 75, 80 again. I've got mine set up with 70-pound mods and an 80% let off. So I like that 80% let off. And again, I can touch on the mods. We've got a whole wall of them here in the back, so I'll run you through those. And then draw length. So the 34-inch version, you're gonna have the ability to adjust that from 26.5-inch draw length all the way out to 32 inches. So taller guys that have been looking for a longer draw length and more of a traditional hunting style platform, you guys now have that option where that draw length goes out to 32 inches. So those are the basic specs on the bow. If I dive deeper into like the individual features of what this new bow has, different risers. So if you look at the riser, you can definitely see that there's a major difference in the riser versus the Lift X from last year. You can see that it gets much wider at the top. So they've done some different machining to essentially increase the rigidity, which is going to increase obviously the rigidity, the stiffness of the riser, and make it that much more efficient. It's going to cut down on vibration. You can also see that they've actually machined in this silent connect system in the top of the bow. Prior to this year, you would have had to buy the little tabs that screw in here to the top of the limb cup. That was mostly for guys that are hunting out of a tree stand. They wanted the ability to be able to hook up a rope and essentially pull that thing up or lower it down. Now they've machined that into the riser, so you no longer have to buy the Silent Connect system as an aftermarket purchase. You just simply loop your tether over that. You can pull it up and drop it down, which is nice. All right, so you can see it has a brand new limb cup design this year. You can kind of see how they've slimmed that down and cut the pieces out in the machining process on the limb cup. I'm being told that was primarily to cut down on shot vibration and also align the limbs that much better to make them more efficient. I will say it was a very easy bow to tune. You get the right spine arrow, the right setup for it when they're talking to each other. I didn't have really any major issues in tuning the bow. So if you look at the cam looks slightly different. This is a new cam. They're calling it the SwitchWeight X Gen 2 cam. One of the biggest differences when you look at this cam is the perimeter weight that's here in the corner. If you've owned a Mathews bows or shot Mathews bows over the years, you'll be familiar with this weight that they've got in their cams. The last couple years with the Lift X, they got away from that, but you can see that making a comeback with some of the other bows that I've seen in the past. Essentially, it's gonna help you retain the speed in this cam and also make it more efficient. So it's a slightly different looking and feeling cam. It's ever so slightly different. I would say it's pretty similar to this draw. I do like the draw cycle maybe a slight bit better. It does use the SwitchWeight X draw mods. So like I said, I've got the regular mods that I would use. I could actually transfer mods between the two different bows from the Lift X to the ARC, or I am being told, and I haven't had a chance to actually shoot these yet, but I'm being told that they have a new mod called the Z mod, which is a little bit slower, but supposedly it kind of takes the draw cycle to a very smooth, even drawing cycle. So if you're a guy that's hunted in a tree stand, you're cold, or you just have a hard time drawing your bow when the moment of truth hits, I think that Z mod might be up your alley. I've read that it's a little bit slower. I don't know exactly how much because I haven't had a chance to shoot it, but I am being told that it smooths that cycle out really nicely. So you might want to look into that if you're a guy that's looking for like the ultimate smooth drawing bow. Some of the bigger advancements again this year, as I already said, is in the accessories of their bow. So they do have a new back bar bracket. I don't have one with me on this bow. I've got this one mounted to the back of the riser like I have historically since they came out with this little Atlas back bar bracket. The new one actually bridge locks, similar to this system, through the riser, and then you've got one of the little screws similar to this one that tightens into your stabilizer on the front part of the bow that screws into the back of the riser. It's a slick little system. I've just seen it. I haven't actually had a chance to put it on and play with it, but it's a lighter, more slimmed down version of this back bar bracket, and I'm being told that it's more secure. That's going to stay in place that much better. So that's a little improvement. As you look right here, you can see that little receiver portion of that, and then the mounting bolt actually comes through the back of the riser. So that's one little advancement in a component that you can get for the bow. Another update to an accessory is the stabilizer. So Mathews has had some requests from guys that wanted to shoot a down degree angle on their stabilizers, which allows you to maybe balance your bow, stabilize it out a little bit better. You know, guys, if you're familiar with the target world, there's a lot of guys that'll shoot a quick disconnect on a down angle because it helps them settle out the pin movement that much quicker as they come to full draw. As you start moving into some of those longer stabilizers, you can get a little bit of waggle, and sometimes using a down degree quick disconnect, if you will, can actually take some of that out and stabilize it that much quicker. Also, some guys just like a down degree angle on their front bar, just the stability of the way that holds, but it's something that you can play with. So this year, Mathews actually released a new degree. It's a 7-degree down version of their stabilizers bars, and those are going to be available in a 15, a 12, and a 10-inch, which I've got the 3 of them here. Basically, you slide those in the riser, and you can see it's got the cutout right here in the bottom portion of the stabilizer. You just drop that in, and it actually kicks down at a 7-degree angle, and then you go ahead and tighten in the set screw on the back of the riser. So you can kind of see how that gives you that 7-degree angle down on your front bar. And like I said, some people really like it. I've played with both. I've gone back and forth. I actually like the straight mount. That's just my preference. I like the way the bow holds and balances. But for guys that like that down degree, now you have the option to buy a bridge lock stabilizer with a 7-degree down version of that. So that's another little nice advancement. I will say the Mathews stabilizer bars are super nice. They're stiff, they're lightweight, buck the wind. I like their integrated weight system where you can just interlink those and add more weight or decrease the weight as you go. So it's a slick little system, and of course you got the harmonic dampeners at the end of each stabilizer. They're going to kill sound and vibration that much more. The last couple of years, Mathews has had this integrated bridge lock system for mounting sights. Pretty much every sight on the market, from Excel, Spot Hog, UltraView, they're all producing sights that you can use this dovetail system to essentially slide the mount of the sight directly into the riser and tighten that down, which further streamlines this bow. You can see that everything fits pretty flush to the riser. Again, they've got the ability to mount your rest. So this is a Ultra Rest from QAD, mounts directly into the dovetail. I saw just yesterday that Hamsy's got a brand new rest out that's got an integrated system that's going to go straight into that dovetail mount. A lot of the bow companies are doing that. And again, it just kind of cleans up the bow. It makes it that much more streamlined. It allows you to balance it a whole lot easier. So that's a nice little perk of these bows and other bows on the market. I'm glad to see a lot of the companies that are moving towards that. Match grade strings. So these are the original match grade strings that came on this bow when I got it back in August. I've probably got, I don't know, several thousand arrows at this point. I don't have any serving separation. I really think Mathews has made a major improvement over the last 2 years in their strings. I can pretty confidently say that the factory match strings that you're going to get on a Mathews bow, it's a nice set of strings. I haven't personally had any issues with the sets that I've had, so that's a great little addition along with this brand new ARC bow. Going back to the cams and the tuning system, once again, this will have the limb shift technology that Mathews released last year with the Lift X33 and the other version of that bow. That limb shift technology is a sweet little system that allows you to tune your left and right. So when you're paper tuning, maybe you're doing some bear shaft tuning, you can leave your rest set at 13/16 or approximately 13/16, which is a good center shot. It's a great place to start. And then if you're having issues with your paper tail, either left or right, you can tune those out by this limb shift technology. It's a really simple system. It's got a set screw on the inside here. You just pop that out internally, you pop in an Allen key and either turn that left or right. There's directions and indication marks here on the top. And you essentially walk that distance between the limb tips, either left or right, to incorporate better flying air out of your bow. It's a sweet little system. I know that for setting up a bow, for working in a shop, it makes it really simple to paper tune your bow the left and rights. Previously, you had to shim your cam or use top hats. You had to have a top hat kit, or you had to move your rest, or a combination of the both. I really like this system now that they've got, because you can set your rest at 13/16 and then you simply use this limb shift technology, shoot it through paper, clean that hole up really quick, and you're good to go. All right, and lastly, as you can see, we have a brand new color. So they have this brand new Kodiak brown color. They have a whole bunch of other colors, different camo options. They've got a bunch of different solid options, including earth, ambush green, black. They still have the fade, so if you want a fade riser, they still are doing that, but they do have this new Kodiak brown color, which looks pretty cool. So that's it, the brand new Mathews ARC 34. Those are the specs. You can kind of see what it looks like. I run through some of the features that you're gonna get on this brand new bow. With that, let's jump over to the bow shop next door. We're gonna shoot it through a Chrono in a real world example with a 490 grain hunting arrow. Getting ready to head to Arizona here in a week, and so I want to see what this thing gets. But yeah, let's jump over to the bow shop. Maybe we'll even weigh it just to give you an idea of what it weighs fully kitted out, and we'll give you some real world speed. So let's jump over there. All right, so we're going to shoot the bow, the ARC 34. We're going to shoot it through paper. I have paper tuned this, tuned it at home, so it should shoot clean holes. But my experience in tuning this bow was pretty simple. I didn't have any major issues with tuning it. Essentially, I set my knock height about 3/16 high of center, ran the arrow 90 degrees. It might be slightly high in the burger hole, but setting up was a breeze. Didn't really have any issues as far as up and down. Slight tweak with my limb shift technology to get the left and rights out, and it was shooting bolt holes. I started out with shooting bear shaft through paper at home, and then got those shooting clean holes from anywhere from 3 yards to maybe 12 yards, and then switched over to shooting fletched vanes. Obviously knock tuning as I went, kind of cleaning up those tears as I went, but it shoots a nice hole. And as far as tuning, I think it's a super simple process. I think shops are going to love them. If you guys stop into our shop and want to test out a brand new Mathews bow or buy a Mathews bow, I think it's going to be a pretty simple process for you. Tuning on those is a breeze, and it doesn't take a ton of pressing like it has in the past. So with that, you guys can see what the bow shoots like, see what that thing looks like at full draw. Let's see what it does through paper. All right, so I should talk about the grips. So Mathews does have different grip options that you can buy, different degrees. They got a 14 degree, a 17 degree, and then a 12 degree, which is actually the engaged grip that it comes with. You can also purchase side plates, which is what I've got on my bow. I've come to really like the side plates. So you've got an inside portion and an outside portion, and then I like to wrap mine with baseball handle tape. So this is the 0.5 millimeter lizard skin tape. I know that people are going to ask, so I'm going to include that detail right now. For me, that's the feel that I like, but they do have those different grip options that you can purchase aftermarket, either the 14 or the 17 degree. So that's the Engage grip options, but my favorite is side plates. So let's shoot it through paper, see what it does. Oh, I got a little tear there. Yeah, so a couple arrows. One, I might need a slight tweak on a knock, but you can see that arrow there, dead center in the middle. Tuning was a breeze. That's one thing I really appreciate the Mathews bows, is that they're relatively easy to tune. It doesn't take a whole lot of extra knowledge. You can essentially go to YouTube University and learn how to tune out your left and rights. So paper tune looks good, and I found that my bows hold a decent tune over time. It's good to check your strings as you go through the process of breaking them in. You know, check your timing again, maybe after you get a couple hundred arrows through that bow, but for the most part, really nice strings, nice product, super easy to tune, and it's really stable. You know, I talked a little bit earlier about this axle to axle length and why I like a longer axle to axle bow. For me, they're just that much more stable. So if you think about the analogy that's often given, you have a broom handle, right? That broom handle's a lot harder in your hand to swivel back and forth versus a pencil or a ruler, right? You've got more length in the riser, which is going to lead to a more stable platform. Another reason I like a longer axle bow is because I've got a 30-inch draw and I like the string angle. It's a lot more comfortable for me to shoot a longer bow than it is to shoot a shorter bow, because that angle on the string is that much more acute. So I like the more subtle angle, and I've always really liked a longer axle bow. All right, so just to run through specs, I wanted to throw this in the draw board and just double check draw weight. I haven't done anything as far as, you know, limb cups. Those are snugged in tight, which is the way I got the bow when I got it. I want to check my timing, but basically I just want to check my draw weight, peak holding weight, and then also you can kind of get an idea based on the size. You can take it with a bit of a grain of salt, but you can get an idea what the actual draw length that is. So let's throw it in the draw board. We'll test out draw weight. So 70.4. And cam timing, I just want to double check it, and it looks like I'm dead nuts. Yep. So cam timing, I'm talking about your mods actually rolling over and contacting your cables at the exact same time. 70.4, and looks like I'm about 30 and an eighth. So those will give you some idea on the specs and as it relates to the Chrono, which I'm going to shoot here in a second. So I'm stoked. All right, so we're going to shoot this through the Chrono. We've got the Garmin Chrono sitting right here, but I wanted to show you that I'm actually weighing this arrow so that when you see the results of this thing, you know that I'm not fooling. So 492.8 grains. So that's a 490 grain arrow, finished weight. So we got two of them here. Let's see how good I am at balancing. So 490.9. So they're within a grain. So that's a 490 grain finished arrow. 75 grains up front in an insert, 100 grain filled tip. It's a gold tip 250 platinum pierce. You've got the TAC 275 vanes, and then I've got an Easton Knox. So it's kind of a hodgepodge, but let's shoot this through a Chrono. I'll give you guys an idea of what this thing is actually shooting foot per second when the bow's fully set up and tuned. .285.3, which is pretty good. I mean, considering this is a 34-inch axle-to-axle bow, a 491 grain arrow, 70 pounds, 80% let off, 30-inch draw. 285 is right in my wheelhouse. You know, that's a heavy arrow for most hunting situations, I would say. I could probably drop this down to like a 450 grain arrow, or 450 grain arrow, and probably get, you know, 295-ish, something like that, which is smoking fast. But for a built-out elk hunting arrow, I'm really happy with 285. So let's see what this one does. 285.3. All right, so that's the brand new Mathews ARC 34, brand new for this year, 2026. They have a 30-inch version. As I said, we have a new pro shop. We got Cody here. Cody is our new pro shop lead. We snatched him from Colorado. Guy's an awesome bow tech. So if you're in Vegas, you're in the area at all, if you want to come to a Raiders game or any other concert, come in and check out the bow shop and talk to Cody.